So, y'all got your measurements, you got your fabric cut out, you got your interfacing cut out, you got your piece cut out for your little handle, you got a 14-inch zipper ready to go. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to iron interfacing onto each piece of this fabric. And I will do that sped up. If you have a problem understanding what I'm doing, I have a video on interfacing. And, or you can click the link to my blog and I'll explain interfacing and how it works and what kinds you need to use. Just for quick reference, I'm using Pelon number 809 Decor Bond. It is a medium heavyweight interfacing. Okay, so now you should have your interfacing ironed on to each of the 4 pieces for the bag. And the next thing we want to do is attach our zipper foot. And these zipper foots are interchangeable. You can move them from one side to the other so that you can just sew the zipper all one way. But I usually just keep it on one side and I just keep flipping it. It's just a habit I have. If you see me doing that in the video and you question why, it's just I always happen to sew to the right side of the zipper. So I always have my foot over to the right so it's out of the way. And we're going to start by, and what I'm going to do is with the right side, that's going to be the side where you've got the zipper pull facing the right side of the outside of the fabric, the bag. We're going to start, I guess what I'll do is I'll turn my zipper this way so that I have the pull facing the other way. And it's still with the front side of the zipper or the top of the zipper facing the right side of the fabric. So I'm going to set my machine to medium speed. It is set on lightweight fabric, 2.5 stitch length. The tension is close to the 6, between the 6 and the 5, but closer to the 6. My presser foot is on the 6, so if you have the same machine I'm using, you can use the same stitches I'm using. Okay, so once you get down here close to this pull, you're obviously going to have a really hard time making a smooth line if you try to, even with the zipper foot on, if you try to sew around this. So what I'm going to do is over here on the side of my machine where I've got the thing that moves the needle up and down, I'm going to push that needle down in there. Be careful to keep your feet away from the pedal while you're doing this, because you know you don't need to cut your machine off. You just need to make sure that you're not going to press that foot and start your machine to sewing and sew over your finger. So I'm going to lift up the presser foot and I'm going to open up the zipper and I'm going to hold that zipper in place. So now I'm going to close the presser foot back down and I'm going to raise my needle back up and I'm going to finish this stitch. And always make sure that you do a little back stitch at the beginning and the end of your project. So you see there, we've got our zipper sewn on one side. Now we're going to take a piece. I'm going to go ahead and close this zipper back up. We're going to take a lining piece of fabric here and I'm going to lay it so that the zipper is sandwiched in between the 2 layers. And I'm going to make sure I'm lining the 2 projects up together. And what I'm going to do is flip this around. And since I'm starting on the end where that zipper pull is, I'm going to put my needle in there. I'm going to go ahead and open up my zipper a little bit, and once I get past that zipper, what I'm going to do is just close it back up, because for me it's easier if the zipper's closed. So I'm just going to follow the line from the first one I made for the outside piece of the bag. and that way I'll keep my line neat. So I'm just going to, like I'm tracing with a pencil, except I'm doing it with a thread. I'm going to follow right along with this first line I made. Okay, so now you see I've got the first pieces for the one side of the zipper sewn onto the zipper. Now what I want to do is just kind of smooth it out with my fingers to begin with. And then I'm going to take the iron and I'm going to press that down to make sure it's away from the zipper pull. Now we're going to do the other side of the bag. And same thing, we want the right sides of the bag facing together, and we want to line it up with the zipper so that everything is nice, neat, crisp, and pretty. Now we've got everything together, sort of, you know, everything's on the zipper. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to, this gets kind of tricky, but we want to do this step because, especially for this bag, if this was a different project, it wasn't this cosmetic bag, maybe if it was a small bag, a small little coin purse, I wouldn't top stitch, but I'm going to do that with this one. So now I'm going to go to my machine and I'm going to put it on a longer stitch length. I'm going to do a 3.5 stitch length, and I'm just going to right along the edge here. If you guys can see it, I can't even see if you can see it because I have my glasses on and I see terribly from that far away. So I'm just going to top stitch really close to this edge right here of this material, and you want to make sure everything is, like I said, off that zipper. You know, give it a little final little tug before you start sewing. Okay, so I've done the first one. I don't know if you guys can see that stitch because I'm doing white thread. So I'm going to turn it around and I'm going to do the other side. Well, that one turned out pretty. All right. Okay. So the inside of this bag, we're gonna is gonna be a little funny because it's gonna be sewn with wrong sides facing together. But the outside, we're gonna do that the way, you know, right sides facing together. What we're gonna do is just sew all the way down this, and I'm doing about a 1/2 inch seam allowance. I've got my stitch length at 2.5. My speed at medium speed. Tension is between the 6 and the 5, closer to the 6. My presser foot pressure is on the 6. Now, the thing about this project is it's going to have a raw edge inside the bag, but the neater you sew, the better it'll be. It'll be okay. You'll survive. So let me zoom out so you guys can see. So what we're going to do is, first of all, we're going to kind of roll this outside of the bag up in here, and then we're going to find the ends of the inside of the bag. And I would recommend doing like a raw, like a zigzag stitch or something, just to neaten this up and make it look a little better. Now it gets to be just loads and loads of fun. The step I actually forgot to tell you guys to do was to press the seam open in this on this outside of the bag. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to do that now. I've got a little bit of room in there. I think I can do it. There. And now what we're going to do is it can get really tricky, so you have to be careful at this part or you won't get a pretty bag out of this. First thing we need to do is we're going to have to open that zipper up a little bit and get it out of our way. And we're going to take both layers of this bag, lining up the seams. Like the back and the inside and the outside seams should kind of line up. And you can press these down since we do have this on the outside. And I know that interfacing is going to show and it's kind of icky. You could take even hand stitch a piece of the matching fabric over this stitch, because it is going to show on the inside of the bag, and you know it's probably not going to look all that attractive that way, but didn't do it. So now what we're doing is we're trying to line up. Anyway, what we're going to try to do is line up those seams with the zipper. We don't want to try, you want to do it. You don't want to guess, you don't want to think maybe I can just be a little off with this. No, you can't. And I got to kind of play around with it a little bit and make sure that I've got everything lined up as neat as I can. See, when I went and pulled that side, this side went a little crooked. So we want to make sure all these layers are together. They're not folded in there. They're not doubling up. That they're all laying flat together. So now what we're going to do when we've got everything nice and flat and neat is we're going to sew down these sides, just the ends where they're open. And you want to be very careful. You want to leave a nice generous seam allowance, a little more than ½ inch probably, maybe 2/3 of an inch if you have to. And do it on both ends. And make sure that you change your settings on your machine, because this is really heavy. We've got 4 layers of fabric and 4 layers of interfacing, so I would call that medium to heavyweight, just depending on the fabric you use. This kind of, the fabric I have on the outside almost feels like a duck cloth, but it's a little bit thinner, not quite as stiff. So, you know, set your machine based on that, and be very careful of this little tail end here that has the metal teeth. I really should have, I think the first one I made, I tried to just completely not have that in the area at all, but it's there now, so I've got to be aware of it and be careful not to sew right over it, because you will break a needle. Okay, I did sew both ends of this and I forgot to turn the camera on when I did the first one, but anyway. So the next thing we want to do is at the ends here, and you do first and foremost, you want to make sure that you sewed all the way to the end of this, of each one. You don't want a hole in anything, which it probably wouldn't be anyway once you make these gussets. But anyway, now we're going to make the gussets, but first we need to clip these ends. It makes it easier to do the gussets. I'm probably going to have to use my big scissors. I don't want to clip the material. What I'm doing is I'm just clipping. I'll do this and then I'll show you guys. I mean, what I'm doing is clipping and opening the seam allowance, see? So that it's easier to work with when you do this part. Okay, so now we are going to make our gussets so that our bag is square. Now we just have a flat bag, but we want a square bag. So And I know you guys are thinking, what the heck are we going to do with the handle? We're going to get to that. The way I do it, it's just easier for me. So we're going to get in there, and I may not have opened my zipper up enough. So we want to get our zipper open. And we don't need to open it all the way right now. We just need to get it open so we can get our hand in there. Get your pin cushion ready. Grab one of these corners here and open the seams. And make a little triangle. And try to make an even line. Spread everything out with your fingers. Make sure that you're not balling anything up in the back there or bunching anything up. I need to open this seam up just a little bit more. It's not wanting to lay flat. Now, what you do here matters a lot. So you want to be careful and you want to make sure that this is done right. So what I'm going to do is I'm opening that up and I'm pressing with my fingers and making sure that everything is even. And I kind of want to line it up. That looks pretty the way it's folded like that. So I'm going to take my ruler. I'm just kind of looking at it, and you know, with my smart vision, and I'm going to figure out where I want to draw this line. And I'm going to look for the pencil that I always lose in my bun up here on my head. And I'm going to hold this down, and this is kind of, I'm at an awkward angle because I'm trying to show you guys how to do this. So what you want to do is make a pencil mark all the way across there. And you can pin it, which is what I should have done. That's why I told you to get your pin cushion ready, right? Right. So you want to pin those seams open and pin up above, a little bit above where you're going to sew. And it gets a little tricky if you got these little cheap pins like I do. They want to bend up and make a dang mess. So I'm going to look at it. Do I like that triangle? I actually don't, because it's going to be crooked if I do it like that. So I'm going to take my ruler. I'm going to flatten everything out better, and I see that I've got it kind of leaning this way, so I'm going to do it this way. And once we got our pins out, we're just going to cut a little close to the stitch, but we don't want to cut through the stitch, obviously. And I like to save my little piece, and I kind of match it up with the other one once I've got that one done. So now we got this one, and the wider you make this triangle, the fatter your bag's going to be, the wider your bag is going to be. So that's up to you. You can do it. I'm not doing it in any certain at any certain width. I'm just trying to get it neat. So I kind of get my finger in there so that I can line this up, and you can look at it and see, do you like the way that looks? If you do, then you do it. So now we're just going to see how our bag looks when we turn it right side out. That's not bad at all. It needs some pressing and some poofing, but it looks good. So now what we need to do is, I know we sewed everything together, right? And we didn't do our handle. But it's just, when I went through different ways to do it and I tried different methods, it got kind of messy trying to do it while you were constructing these corners here. So what I decided was the best thing for me to do is to turn it back, wrong side out. I decided which end I wanted to put my handle on, And for me, it worked best, I think, to put the handle on the end where the zipper closes. If it's different for you, then, you know, or you could put 2 handles, it really doesn't matter, but this is the end I'm going to have it on. So what I'm going to do now is create that little handle, and I have this 10-inch piece. So I've got it with raw edges here, and it's up to you what size. You don't want it to be too thick, but I'm doing to where it's about 1 inch, and I'm covering all the raw edges. So we're going to take it to the machine, and we're just going to create some stitches. And don't forget to change your machine back to lightweight fabric and 2.5 stitch length, and the tension and everything pretty much stays the same. Now you want to get your seam ripper. I know, right? You just put this together, and you might want to go easy on these stitches when you're putting whichever end you're going to put this handle through in there, so that you can get to it easier. But what I'm going to do is right in the middle there, I'm going to open that seam back up, being very careful not to rip my fabric. So once you've got it open enough that this handle fits in there without folding over, you want to feed the handle through, and the back side of the handle where that little seam you made, that fold over you made, is showing on your side facing you. You want to push it through there that way. And then you want to open up the other side and feed it through there, making sure that you're not folding it over or bending it the wrong way so that your handle doesn't come out crooked. And I just follow it in there with my hand and just push it through. And it may be too much handle. You really may not need that much. You don't want to pull it real tight. You want to have enough of it that you can get your hand in there to grab a hold of your cosmetic bag. And so I've got it the way I want it, and it's lined up with the seams. So now I'm going to sew this back up. And now all you have to do is make sure there's not too much handle hanging in there, but you, like I said, you want enough. And we're going to just sew back over these gussets that we made, just being real careful not to get anything out of place. So now we can clip the little tails of our handle there. And the reason I told you to cut it at 10 inches is in case you want it to be a little longer, and in case you do your width of these bags a little different, then you might need a little longer handle. It's always better to have more than less when it comes to fabric, because you can't add, but you can take away. You know, you can use some manly fabric, maybe some mustache fabric or something, and make a shaving bag for guys. So I'm still fiddling with the, but that turned out really great, really great. And I'll tell you, if you're going to sell these, if you're going to make these to sell, which I have no problem with that, but anyway, I'll tell you, if you're going to sell these and you want to ship them, and I always would, when I would sell mine, I would put a little note in there. I had them printed out, little cards telling how to care for them, how to get them back up to that shape when they get them. But you don't want to ship it like this, because you would have to ship it in a priority mailbox. And I would fold them like this and put them in an envelope. And they'll ship in a padded envelope, first class mail, $3 or $4. I love this fabric. I didn't tell you about this at the first of the video, but I was going to use the same fabric that I showed you guys the picture of the other day, because I kind of wanted it, you know, to match up with what I'd been telling you I was going to do. but I went into Walmart to get my interfacing, and I saw this fabric. They had a bunch of this. I got this and kind of a similar couple of patterns here that I'm going to make some more out of. And I got it in half yards, and it is 40 wide. So I think when I opened it up and I cut my pieces out a while ago, I figured that in a half yard, 2 half-yard pieces, which is essentially a yard, you can get about 3 cosmetic bags, possibly 4, out of a yard of fabric. So we're just going to see what the next project's going to be. You guys go on over to Facebook, and maybe we'll talk about what you want me to do for the video that'll be coming up next Friday. This is obviously released on a Monday, so the Friday video I should be working on that soon. And be sure to check out my new blog. I forgot to tell you guys about that, but there will be some sewing tips in there. There's some other things, personal things, stories, and you know, you guys know I love to write. I hope you'll go over there and check out my blog and let me know what you think of it, and give me some feedback on that as well. So I hope you guys enjoyed this little tutorial. Peace. Bye-bye.